Honorable Oppong Nkrumah, thanks for joining us. I know you are at the bench conference. How will that help us reduce our flood challenges? I think even yesterday, some places in Accra got flooded. We've been talking about flooding the whole week. What is the bench conference and how is it going to help us reduce or prevent flooding?
Well, I thank you. Good morning to you, your colleagues, and your listeners. The bench conference is a thought leadership platform for the built environment. We don't actually have anything like that in the built environment, where government on one side, the experts and practitioners on another side, private sector players, academia, and all who have in-depth knowledge about the issues in the built environment can coalesce and go through what is being done, what ought to be done, get some hard, sometimes unpleasant feedback, and use that to improve or amend the ways by which we are responding to them. So it's the Built Environment National Conference on Hydrology and Housing, which are the two broad issues that fit under the Western Housing Ministry currently. Under hydrology, we've got about two major angles. First, we've got the flood control program, which is aimed at ensuring that hydro works are done in a manner that reduce the propensity for floods. And then you've got the coastal protection program, which is also aimed at ensuring that as much of our coastline is protected from the high tidal waves and the challenges that we are having as a result of climate change. So, for example, on the first day, we've been going through the various things we are doing on hydrology to find a permanent, more resilient response to the difficulties that the climate is giving us currently. And then on day two, which was yesterday, we spent time looking at the new approach to dealing with affordable housing and the kind of incentives package that between the ministries of finance and housing we've put on the table to get the necessary response and buy-in from real estate developers, the banks, the pension funds, the unions, etc. So we're going through a process of, agreeing on the interventions, and we're doing that at the same time as we roll out some of these interventions, and we think that it will help deepen collaboration to get results.
I like the word collaboration because it seems like every government event I attend these days, that's the issue. It seems like there's so many parts to our problems and there's so many people working in silos. So even with this flood management and coastal thing, I can see Ministry of Works and Housing, which you lead, Ministry of Sanitation is there, Ministry of Local Government is there, even Ministry of Information and possibly Ministry of Roads. How are you coordinating all of these to bring results? Because everybody wants to control their piece of the pie, and there are people who don't want to let go of what they control. And yet the problem requires many different agencies to work together. So is the hydrological agency that agency, or is it your ministry, or is it the senior minister? Who is going to coordinate these our built environment efforts in housing and hydrology?
So what we have done is to use our summoning power to bring everybody to the table and to get everybody to reflect on their piece of the pie in resolving it. If you take the hydro challenges that translate into flooding challenges, the local government ministry and the assemblies have a major role to play, even when we come in to build the big storm drains and retention ponds that need to be built, let's say at a bigger district or intermunicipal level. Even when we come in to do it, you need the collaboration of the assemblies to maintain them, to own them, to ensure that people do not just, choke it all up with solid waste. You need the communications people to also see their role in it, and that's why the ISD is with us in what we are doing. You need the communications people to see their role so that there's that regularity of communication to, the public about the fact that the rains are coming. Even if the rains are not coming, this practice where we just choke the little drains that we have with all sorts of debris is pretty unhelpful, and they need to move away from it. So for the various layers, what we are doing is summoning everybody to the table. Now, for the Hydro Authority specific, by law, the authority is the one that has the power to put its finger in the various institutions and get the various institutions to play their roles. So, for example, take development in Accra. People are building in Accra, tiling their entire compounds, not providing any drainage systems that feed into secondary drains in their neighborhood, assuming there was. How do we get the local planning authorities to ensure that as part of permitting for building, this is dealt with? And even when they are done, how are we getting all the channels into secondary drains properly evacuated into tertiary drains that will get it out of the city? So at one level, we at the ministry are using our summoning power to bring everybody together. But a technical agency on the hydro front that can actually get work done is the Hydro Authority. And by our literally whipping everybody around the table, they now also have an opportunity to move. One of the things that they have also lacked is funding. All that happens now is that every year government gets some 50 million CDs or 60 million CDs and gives them out to the Hydro Authority. And they can only do so little of the work that needs to be done. Or we appeal to the World Bank or somebody to give us a loan or a grant to do something. That's not good enough. So what we've done is to launch the Hydro Fund. Government has put in some seed money, about 1.5 million CDs, very, very limited, but it's within the financial constraints that we have a demonstration of the beginning. We are now working to crowd in some more resources from our development partners, from the climate resilient funds, from some of the other platforms. And we even say the private sector that is sometimes so badly affected when you have these floods come up, so that this fund can fuel the work of the Hydro Authority and can complement the limited fiscal resources that we make available for purposes of hydro works.
So, but while all this is going on, we understand the GARID project is also ongoing. Is it that they don't make enough noise about what they do, or a lot of what they do is behavioral? Because some people expect to see a lot more, like storm drain constructed, concrete being put. There seems to be no more. There isn't that much visibility to what they do. Is it that the scope of the project is not that big? Can you talk a bit about that?
Okay, so GARID, if you look at the Greater Accra region, or Accra, for example, not even the Greater Accra region, Accra, there are about 8 major water channels that are supposed to evacuate water out of the city when you have inordinate amount of rain. The Odo is just one, and GARID focuses principally on the Odo. The rest still require the necessary designs and the mobilization of funding to deal with them. So first of all, the scope of GARID itself is limited. Secondly, GARID has been behind schedule, as I've said over and over again, because of the project design or the project framework that was put in place. So you had funds, some of which were committed, but you couldn't utilize it because the original project design was that the government of Ghana was supposed to pay compensation to project-affected persons. And so the money which was voted and made available for the actual works was there, but until compensation had been paid, the World Bank will not allow that money to be utilized for contractors to start work. So we had to vary the project framework. We had to apply and vary the project framework now to say that we needed to use part of the GARID money to pay for compensation, and then upon payment of the compensation, then the contractors can move to some of those places. That was one of the reasons. And it took quite a bit. So you notice that just last week around Paloma, I went to break ground. I was there with the MP, Zaneto Rawlings, with the MC, with the regional minister, to start work on expanding the concrete drains from Paloma going into the Odo. Because when it was built, 10, 15 years ago, the pressures, the water volumes were very different from what we are seeing now. So there's a need to do that expansion work. But that was after we had now paid compensation to the project-affected persons. And I also announced there that just about next 2 or 3 weeks, we're going to the Kanishi area where you have a lot of floods. They need to dig up the old drains, do bigger, expanded drains so that you can get storm waters moving out of that place. But again, that is after you are now able to pay project-affected persons. So that's been one of the delays. Another cause of the delays has been the fact that initially you needed 2 levels of review which were consequent to each other. One was consequent to the other before you could go into actual execution. Apart from the master design, when they do the specific design, it needs to be reviewed by Hydro and then by the World Bank consultants before approval is given. Now since I assumed office, we've agreed with the bank to collapse it into a simultaneous review so that you don't have to wait for months of review before work gets done while people are suffering and are having their flooded things. So if you are not seeing, or if you were not previously seeing a lot of work on GARID, it's partly because it has delayed, and it's partly because it's only on one of the channels. What we are doing currently is to try to fast track it, as I've explained to you. And then secondly, we are currently doing the research designs on about 4 of the other channels or basins so that we can mobilize some resources to deal with those ones as well. I'm sure your friends in Hydro would have told you that if you look at the hydro picture across the country and even the Greater Accra region, and if you look at the hydro master plan, the amount of resources required to deal with it is nowhere near what we are playing with. But we need to get the designs done quickly, mobilize resources, then tackle it head on so that we can get some more significant results. So
we appreciate all the background work, fundraising, and all these discussions. But there's a sense in which you feel frustrated. There's no urgency. You know, like I don't know whether it was Henry Cote who was doing it, but there was a certain sense of urgency you get when there are cleanups happening, people are desilting their drains, and citizens are engaged. It's missing. And you know, in a time when it's raining and even if there's no resources, getting the citizens to even get interested in taking part of this, I mean, I don't know what to say. What do you have to say about that? There seems to be some lack of oomph in getting our hands dirty to make sure that our built environment looks better. And I don't know what's missing. I don't know if you can place your finger on it.
Well, I would first take it as feedback, and I'll not even disagree with you, that we need to be doing a lot more to bring public attention to everybody's responsibility. Because even if we don't have 300 million to build all the drains and the gutters, the basics that we can do about ensuring that the little we have is not choked or even desilting needs to be done. We have just started a public education campaign as part of the 2024 flood control program, which is just getting underway, aimed at bringing a bit of attention to it. I am hopeful that our colleagues in the media, I know you guys do it a lot, but the general media can help us shift from, just the basic reporting on flood to also including education about desilting and cleaning of, these storm drains and not choking them as well. But I take it as feedback. I believe that we need to step up on that front.
Thank you, Kojo Oppong Nkrumah, Minister for Works and Housing.